So you saw the way the documentary painted that picture, right? It's like they wanted us to believe Diddy was masterminding everything, even twisting up Biggie and Tupac's stories to fit this bad guy mold. Yeah, I couldn't help but notice that. The editing really felt like it was pushing this Diddy forced Biggie angle, like Big didn't have his own mind. It's wild how they staged those scenes in parks, on basketball courts, trying to make it all feel authentic and gritty. Exactly, and the way they brought in Kirk Burrows to talk made it seem like this was some sort of expose, but honestly, Biggie always spoke his mind. It didn't add up. What gets me is how they skipped the real locations too. Like, why not mention interviews by the pool or actual places things went down? It's like they cherry picked every detail to fit their remix of old stories. Jumping off that, all the recycled content about the Source Awards and the East Coast West Coast beef made me roll my eyes. How many times do we have to watch that same story get played out like it's breaking news? Seriously, it felt like a greatest hits album nobody asked for. The whole first hour rehashed the beef and even tried tying the Atlanta incident to Diddy when Diddy wasn't even involved. I noticed that they really stretched the Jake story, making it seem like Diddy was pulling strings in Atlanta, but people forget there were way more players, and a bunch of those details just don't line up with what folks who were actually there have said. It's almost like they hope we're too young or too distracted to remember what actually went down. But anyone who's dug into this knows the Source Awards might have sparked things, but that Atlanta incident, a whole different ballgame. Now, what really threw me was the way they tried to pin Tupac's murder on Diddy again. That narrative just refuses to die, even though the real evidence doesn't really support it. Totally, they mashed up pieces from murder rap and sprinkled in some wild claims from people like Greg Kading. Suddenly, it's like everyone's investigating Keffy D for Tupac's murder, even though LAPD didn't have jurisdiction in Vegas. Exactly, and every time someone pokes holes in the story, the goalposts move. One minute it's Southside Crips, then it's Poochie, then it's Soog. Feels like detective fan fiction at this point. It really does. And if Diddy was actually involved in that way, you'd think something concrete would have come out in all these years. But instead, we get recycled accusations dressed up to sell a new narrative. That actually reminds me of the Lakewood Mall stuff. The documentary leaned hard on the bounty on death row chain's angle, but people who were actually there say the chain never even got snatched. Right. I heard K Dub break it down, he said. Plain as day, the chain never left Trayvon's neck, it just fell off in the scuffle. But somehow, over the years, that story got twisted into a major motive for violence. And it's wild how so many folks who weren't there, Reggie, Snoop, even Keffy D, have told that story in their own way, yet the people actually present all say something else. It's like a game of telephone, but with real consequences. The more it gets told by outsiders, the further it drifts from what actually happened. I mean, if there really was a bounty, why didn't everyone at death row know about it ahead of time? You know, what bugs me most is how documentaries and interviews let people who weren't even there define the story. K Dub straight up says he only tells what he personally saw, but the myths keep multiplying. It's frustrating. At some point, the folks who are actually on the scene need to lay it all out, no more letting third hand accounts create confusion. Otherwise, that remixed version of events just gets repeated. And it's not even about defending anyone's reputation at this point, it's about sticking to the facts. If we keep letting false stories take over, the real lessons just get lost under layers of hype. For real. Maybe it's time for us to start asking tougher questions, or at least listening more closely to the people who are actually